For me, I know that God is always with me, and that is just very comforting. When I think I'm alone, I'm not. And so, even if the world can't see me, even if my family can't see me, my friends, even if the people that are just even sitting right next to me, you can be with people and still feel alone and still feel lonely. And so, it always obviously just comes back to my faith that I know who I am. I know I'm a child of God, and I know He's always with me. He will never leave me, He will never abandon me. And that brings me great comfort. I also know that God wants us to be together. He didn't make us to be alone.
Welcome to Allow Yourself podcast. Today we have a guest, Catherine Finn, that she's an educator, author, speaker, and founder of Holistic Bio Coach. With a background in biology, psychology, and education, she is passionate about helping people build lives worth living through emotional regulation, DBT-informed skills, and faith-based hope. But Catherine hosts the ER podcast, and is the creator of ER Not, the ER emotional regulation, not the emergency room. Her mission is to help individuals and families move from crisis to calm with compassion, practical tools, and hope. So let's welcome Catherine. Hi, Catherine. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, it's such an interesting subject, no? The emotional regulation. When you hear allow yourself, what comes to mind?
For me, when I hear allow yourself, it sounds like permission to be yourself with all the good, the bad, the ugly. Just allow yourself to be who you are in that moment, in that phase of your life, whatever you happen to be dealing with.
It seems so easy and vain to be ourselves, and who are who am I? No, who are we? And what I wanted to ask you is, when you think about emotional regulations, what is the most common emotional emergency that we experience in everyday life?
I think it's different for everybody. I mean, for myself, fear, anxiety, worry, wanting to be perfect, to appear, as if everything is fine. And so again, I think it's different for everyone. It depends on the day and, the month, the year, where you're at. But I think for me, it looks like fear of, wanting to be myself in my natural form, but sometimes wondering if, that will be accepted by others and, in the public, in social media and whatnot.
So what happens when we have that fear every day? Really, it's like the fear of being excluded, if I understand what you're saying, that if they will judge me, the fear of being judged. So how can we go through life trying to belong and not just to fit in order for others to accept us?
I think it comes with, going back to your question about allowing yourself, just being who you really are and not trying to fit in or be pressured by what other people are expecting from you. And if you can regulate your emotions, you can, become your best self in that situation. So by allowing yourself to be who you are, with being okay with maybe not always being accepted or maybe even being rejected in a certain area um, of your life. So it's, it can be scary, uh, presenting your authentic self to the world and hoping and praying that, you'll still be loved and you'll still feel worthy of the world.
Yeah, it's a kind of yes, I want to be me. I want to get to my natural, what I meant to be, and do whatever I want. But on the other hand, is will they judge me? Will they accept me? Will they reject me? It's like Brené Brown does the difference is um, to fit in, to be part of a special group, or to belong, so I can come and show being myself, and they will accept me as I am. I won't be
Yes.
rejected. So what you're saying, if you start being with the courage to take the risk and be yourself, uh, it's like you're transmitting, here I am. So if they reject me, that's not a place where I have to be. I have to find someplace else.
Yes, exactly.
Uh, yes, it's really nice to think about that when we're talking about friends, or when we're talking about um, strangers. But what happened to be ourselves in the family, because we are coming into our family that is already created, that our parents already have their values, and they have their friends, and they are the ones who decide what school is good for me and what are the friends. How do we regulate, coming to your right, how we regulate our situation when it's the fear that our parents reject us, or that our siblings, our own family don't agree to me?
That's a great question. I believe, over the span of my life that my family isn't always my blood. It's not always the family that I was born into. I know, my mom and my dad had, expectations of me to be a certain way or how they wanted me to be. But just coming to the realization that I'm my own person, I have my own autonomy and my own agency, and being okay with maybe not, having agreement with my parents or my siblings, that I'm okay with being okay with them not understanding and being misunderstood. If it means that I can be my true self, with my core values, and I'm a Christian. And so ultimately, I only really care about what God thinks of me. And if I'm aligning my life in that way, I'm okay knowing that, I'm ultimately a child of God. He is my true father. And if he can see who I am and love me unconditionally, I'm okay with other people not accepting that, even if they are my family, my
And
friends.
at what age do you think you came to that uh, conclusion? Because it's independence, right? I don't know. I got to that. I was a rebel because I was myself, and my poor mother had to answer to me all the time the question, according to whom I have to do that, according to whom I have to behave this way. No, because according to me, no, that was my answer all the time. But I was a teenager, let's say, like 12, 13. So it's is this the is this the age when we start seeing that we are not part of our parents, that we are God lend them us to our parents so we can start being ourselves? Is that the time? Or when do you think we start recognizing that there are people that never recognize it, right? But at what time do you think that we start questioning?
Again, I think it's different for everyone. I think for me, it's evolved over time. I think I realized even as a young child, like I don't necessarily agree with something my parents believe or something that one of my siblings would think. When I really became an adult, especially when my brain was, almost developed and I started, really reflecting, and I still think I'm in that process. I don't think it will ever change. But for me, it wasn't until much later in life, in my 40s, that I realized, but I understand that fortunately some people figure it out much sooner than I did.
I don't know. I was asking the question. Uh, I know it's all this emotional regulation and to be yourself is the whole process in your life, and you evolved all the time in a different level and in different layer, right? That you
Yes.
can be yourself. But when you say emotional regulation or emotional emergency, right? What I think is that what it comes to me is that we allow ourselves to feel first. So we believe that healing really starts when we allow ourselves to feel. So why are so many of us afraid of our own emotions? And what happened when we stop resisting or releasing our emotions?
I think number one, feelings are not facts. So I can feel something, that doesn't mean it's true. And so I, over time, realized, I would be upset about certain things, or I would be angry about certain things, or I would be fearful about certain things. And I realized my emotions weren't regulated. I would get, very upset about something that someone else wouldn't really be bothered by. And so emotional regulation, meaning, my nervous system is sometimes calm and sometimes it's not. And I realized working with especially people that I love that sometimes it became a crisis to the point where couldn't the feelings took over. And so, our nervous system has a parasympathetic and a sympathetic. And so when we're not regulated, we don't maybe make the best choices. We don't act the way we normally would. And so where I came up with that name was emotional regulation, not the ER, that if you can calm yourself and be yourself and who you truly are, it won't get to a crisis. Now I understand that sometimes you need the emergency room, right? And so when I learned DBT skills, it's not to replace therapy. It's not to replace going to the doctor. It's not to replace going to the emergency room. However, there are things that we can do before we get to that crisis to avoid going to the emergency room. And so
What's
things like
DBT?
dialectical behavioral therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It was created by a woman named Marsha Linehan, and especially people who suffer with emotional regulation or borderline personality disorder, or just for whatever reason, they have trauma and they can't feel regulated, they can't feel calm, something just feels off. And so dialectical means that two things can be true at the same time. For example, I could be grieving something very heavy but I could also have joy at the same time. That it's not an all or nothing type of thinking. It's not a black and white thinking. So I could be struggling right now with something very intense, but also to be here with you, having this conversation with you, have joy at the same time. So realizing that two things can be true at once and that it's okay to struggle.
That's really allowing yourself to feel in the whole sense, as you say, that you can
Exact,
be in the grieving and the joy at the same time, and you don't have to feel guilty because you have joy even if you're grieving.
exactly.
Mhm. That's really powerful, especially when we are going through a crisis and are suffering. Because I wanted to ask you, what's the difference for you between pain and suffering? Because life can bring us pain, loss, disappointment. And from your work, what is the difference between experiencing pain and living trapped in suffering? Because I think that it's when you're suffering is that when you really are in the emergency room, or you need to get to the first response, to the ambulance, before you get to the suffering.
I once heard the saying, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Oh,
So
that's really nice. Pain
I
is
can't pain
inevitable. Mm-hmm.
pain is inevitable. Like we all experience pain. If you're human and you're living, you have experienced pain, and if you haven't, it's coming. It's you can't go around it. It's the human existence. But suffering is allowing that pain to dictate your life, right? So if you're, for example, if you're grieving,
Mm-hmm.
that means you can still be grieving at the same time that you are, again, experiencing joy. So you're not going to let the pain of that circumstance dictate and almost sabotage everything, even the good things.
Yeah, you
And
can go to
so,
the supermarket even if you're grieving. You
oh,
can you
sure.
can take a shower, something that it's very simple, like take a shower, get dressed, and get out of your house. That's
And
allowed. Mhm.
and there's
In
a lot of
pain.
people
Mhm.
walking around grieving. Everybody at some point in time is experiencing trauma, pain, suffering, stress. There's something going on in their life. So, I'm always mindful that even when I see someone who seems to be happy and joyful, they could be experiencing something also at the same time as that. And so I'm mindful, especially, when I have somebody cut in front of me or, cut me off in traffic or be a certain way, my initial reaction is to react, but now I want to be proactive and I want to reflect on, well, maybe there's something going on with that person and I want to give them a little bit of grace and compassion in hopes that also when I'm, in that same kind of situation, that same empathy would be given towards me.
Uh, just put me in the place of being a kid and then realizing that clowns are not always having fun and smiling and laughing, and some clowns have a very sad life too, and they feel sad, even they use their jokes and their happiness towards others to contain some of their pain, right? But when we are kids, at least me, I'm talking about myself. I thought that they had the perfect life. They're always laughing. They're always with balloons. They were always with people around. And then seeing a movie, I remember when I was a teenager, it says, "Oh, they have a life. They have problems. They have other things too that we don't really realize until we develop a little bit of empathy to say, oh, that person has a life too. What is behind the scenes? No, what is happening uh, there?
Yeah, I
So,
think people wear, we can wear different masks, right? I'm a teacher, so when I go to work, I could be experiencing all different kinds of things, but when I walk into my classroom, there I am, right? I'm not faking it, but I am putting aside and compartmentalizing my home life and my work life. And I try to be fully present with the people I work with my students. That doesn't mean I don't have things going on, but I have to put on, a sort of mask, a sort of facade, a sort of presence that shows up in that space. If that doesn't, however, that doesn't mean I can't be experiencing other things as well.
yes, and this comes back to what you just said, that that's the difference between pain and suffering. Is when you don't allow the pain to dictate your life. So yes, I'm feeling pain. I don't like how I'm feeling, but I have this responsibility. I'm a teacher. I'm with other people. I'm present in the moment that I am, so I can choose the spaces when I can really deal with my pain and not just having it all the time dictating in every single moment that I'm present. It's like allowing myself to pay the, as you said, to leave the pain aside. Now I am teaching. Then I can take the pain back. But right now it's not dictating me. Even if sometimes it filtrates through the presence, but it's not dictating me what I need to do or I need to do.
And I think it's okay to especially model that for children. Once in a while, I will come into my classroom and say, look, I'm not having the best day,
Mm,
to kind of give them an idea of this is where I'm at. We will get emails from our principal and our administration that says, student 123 will get an email and it'll say handle with care, right? So it'll say Beatriz 123, we don't use names in the emails, but handle with care. So that means I know when this person is coming into the building, I don't know what it is, but I know that they have something going on where I'm going to be a little bit more gentle and, kind of put the kid gloves on, kind of like you're holding an egg, right? Like you're just a little bit softer that day. And so sometimes, you know, I kind of feel like teachers should also have, a handle with care. Like we're human beings, we're real people. And so it's important to just give people grace because again, there might be something, and there almost always is something that people are dealing with that you don't know about. And so I just think it's important to be mindful of each other and know that, everybody's doing the best that they can with what they know and what they have.
yeah, and the time they are. So, and you combine education, psychology, and biology in your knowledge. So my question comes to how does the body wants to communicate uh, that? Because it comes all, sometimes it comes before us, right? Anxiety, anger, emotional overwhelm, especially with kids. So how to read the body language. How do you read the body communicating to be able to handle with care? For example, for teachers, that you don't get the email of 1, 2, 3, handle with care. There is communication with your body. So how do you read this body language?
I know my students, I know my clients, the people I coach. I know their typical demeanor of how they act. So if I'm familiar with you, I'll know, I can read when something is maybe a little bit off, whether it's, your face, your posture, how you're speaking, how you're not speaking. And so there are cues in the body. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, right? We can pretend all we want that we are together, but it comes out in different ways. And so, um, in body language, again, in just how people are presenting. And so, even if I don't get that, handle with care, I might go do a check-in, privately with that person, like, how are you doing? Is everything okay? Anything you need help on? And almost every time there's something going on. Or, maybe there's not. Maybe people are just tired, they're not feeling well. But yeah, the body is a big indicator. You can say something without saying anything at all. The body
It,
will show you.
it's very interesting because you just said that the way even to regulate and to deal with that body communication is as simple as asking a question. Are you okay? Or just like I'm seeing you, right? Are you okay? Do you need something? Just one question gives a complete different sensation to the person that is going through anger, anxiety, overwhelm, whatever. One simple question, it gives the the feeling that I'm being seen and I'm not alone. Even if you don't have to do anything, just ask one question. It's like, okay, I'm not alone in this. People see that I'm going through is handled with care. And sometimes we are so afraid to ask those questions or just to, oh no, leave them alone. They are angry, they are whatever. So we don't approach at all and leave it like, oh no, they're not here, leave them alone. And sometimes it's so one word and one question is so change the situation. Do you
And I
agree
too
with me?
think I
Mhm.
do agree with that. And sometimes it's not even a question. Sometimes it's just, hey, if you need anything, if you want to talk to me about anything, I'm here. It's just it's letting them know I see you, I'm here, and giving them that safe space to open up if they need to or to seek out resources and whatnot.
And you said at the beginning that you're a Christian. So how can faith become an anchor during moments when life feels completely out of control?
A great question. I mean, for me, I know that God is always with me, and that is just very comforting. When I think I'm alone, I'm not. And so even if the world can't see me, even if my family can't see me, my friends, even if the people that are just even sitting right next to me, you can be with people and still feel alone and still feel lonely. And so it always obviously just comes back to my faith that I know who I am. I know I'm a child of God, and I know He's always with me. He will never leave me, He will never abandon me. And that brings me great comfort. I also know that
Mm-hmm.
God wants us to be together. He didn't make us to be alone. I also know that even in the Bible, there were times where Jesus put himself in a place to be alone, to go and pray, to go and rest, to be still, to be mindful, and to reflect. And so my my old self would go to food or people or music or some vice that would maybe fill me temporarily. It'd give me a good, dopamine hit, a good serotonin, like I feel good, but then it doesn't last very long. I know God is always there. And so he is, right, the living water that if you have Christ, you'll never be thirsty. You'll never feel the need to fill yourself with anything else because he ultimately is with us and he never leaves us and he'll never forsake us.
It's very interesting because not long ago I was in an event, and one of the young ladies there stood up and said, "No, no, 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 don't talk me, please don't talk me about God. I am so angry because he let me go through such a very heavy, painful experience that a real father won't allow me to go through that. So please don't talk to me about God." And then she says, "Although I would like to be friends with God, but I cannot. I'm really, really angry." So how do you deal with that?
I mean, that's fair. That's a valid feeling. I've even had times myself in being in that situation. However, I know that I'm not going to understand why the things that have happened to me have happened. Why would a God who loves me allow something bad to happen, right? I also know that we have free will and we live in a fallen world and we're all sinners. I also know that God can use what the devil meant for harm and he can use it for good. And so the things that have happened to me, I can either become a victim and be angry and let it just cover my life, or I can take what something that was meant to harm me, turn it to good, and allow it to help other people. And so, why I don't necessarily think God has maybe caused these things to happen to me, I do think that He has allowed these things to happen. And then, therefore, I'm able to help other people who are going through the same situation.
Yeah,
And
it's
so,
like a teaching, like a lesson.
oh,
It's like
absolutely.
you need to leave. It's like, why are you doing this to me? I say, "Oh, okay, you need to learn this lesson so you really will understand how others will feel when they are here, and it's not strange for you." Yeah, that's what I was going to tell you. I remember 7 years that for me were terrible. And I call them now that I'm through, okay? It's the time when God put me on my knees, right? It's like, let's see when you surrender. I am the boss here. I am the manager. So you're going through a path that is not yours. So I don't want you to go that path. That's what I understand now, right? So, no, just surrender and I'll lead you where you need to go. This is not for you. You're living somebody else's dream, not yours. So stop it. No, and I was a rebel and very stubborn. I kept going the same way. So it came harder and then harder and then harder until I said, okay, whatever. And I said, now what? Okay. I said like that. I was sitting in the car. I remember that time that I said, now what? So I turned on the radio. And it's very interesting because the song that popped up, it was, "There can be miracles if you believe," right? So I said, okay, I need to start believing again and just listen. Don't be so stubborn. That's not a way. And even today with clients that go through that, for example, they needed to go to out of town and everything happened the same day. The car broke and then they couldn't go. Always, my question is, who knows what God is protecting you from? Because we think that, oh, I couldn't go and I had an interview and I had to do that, and it's no. Uh, who knows what the universe or God or whatever you call it is protecting you from that you don't need to go. So,
I
um,
agree.
so I wanted to know, how do you deal with these situations? Because I saw this young lady, she was so mad. Um, I remember saying telling her, You know, sometimes you ask for patience. God, please give me patience. And God doesn't send you patience. He usually sends situations that you need to practice patience. Not,
Yes.
yeah. So, so that's what it
Yes.
um, reminded me about how to really put that into the faith and the purpose and the I think the hope and the faith come together. It's not such connected to religion or not. It's if you believe in a higher power, it doesn't matter what religion you are, it's just you have your higher power, then you can hold from there that the best is to come, no? Is
Yes. And I think when you were speaking, I'm in a series, a situation of waiting. And it can be so frustrating. It's like, how long am I going to have to wait for this? How, why? What are you trying to teach me? What do I still need to learn? Because I know if God wanted it, it could happen in a second. So there's a reason that it hasn't happened yet. And waiting can be hard, but also in the waiting doesn't mean that everything else in your life has to be put on hold. And typically then I feel like when one thing works out, there's always something around the corner that's coming again. It's not the end. There's always trials and tribulations, and we just have to be patient and know that, God is in charge. His plan is better than my plan, and you know, he is the one in control. And the more I realize that, the easier it is for me to know I'm not really in charge of this.
I'm smiling because you're talking and I'm seeing myself saying, this is what I want to get. This is how I want to feel. Hello, you're the manager, so take me there. And I have another guest that told me, yeah, it's like we are in a sailboat and we are just adjusting all the time because the wind is coming this way, so we have to adjust. It's coming to the other way. Is that the the adjustment is on our side, but it's guided. It's like um, do you think it really helps soften the pain,
Does what soften the pain?
the faith, the hope, the belief? So help us soften the pain and not get to the suffering.
I'm not sure about softening. It helps us endure the pain to be able to go through it because we are going to suffer. All of us at some point in time have suffered, are currently suffering, or will suffer. I don't think it softens it, but I think God gives us the strength to allow us to endure it, to go through it.
Mm.
And
So you have to allow yourself to feel in order to endure your pain, acknowledge it at least that you have a pain in order to endure it and overcome it and go through it. So next time it won't be so painful. You already know how to deal with it.
yes, and when I think about what Christ, nobody suffered more than that. And so when I'm suffering, it makes me realize that I'm actually closer to God because I'm suffering like he did.
Hmm.
And so it doesn't make me feel more distant from God. And in fact, it makes me feel closer to God because I know he's close to me. I know he has suffered this and he gave his life for me. And so I know ultimately that as long as I'm still here, if I wake up and I'm breathing, there must be a reason that God has me here. And, I think that's what we're all searching for is the meaning of why we're here, what our purpose is. And I do go back to that. I think that the things that happen to us that seem so painful can be a teachable moment to not only again get through it, but then on the other side of it, help other people who used to be where we were. and that we're not alone. So God is with us, but then also we have each other to say, I've been there. I know what you're going through. I understand.
Mm.
And so, there's a lot of peace with that, knowing that he suffered for us and that, you know, our pain is not for nothing. Our tears are not for nothing. There's always a reason why we're suffering, even if we don't understand it.
What would you say to Catherine advice what you advise Catherine, the teenager, when the knowledge you have today?
I would tell her that you don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You don't, you are worthy of love. And I would ask her to stop carrying the weight of what the world has put on her shoulders, that she is not meant to carry that weight, that God will carry that for her, and that one day God would redeem all those painful parts of my story and use those to bring hope to other people.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thank you.
And what would you like to say today to somebody that is suffering?
That your life is worth living, that even though you're going through problems now, that healing is possible and you don't have to suffer alone, that God is near and that people care and stay. We want you to stay. There's a reason why God put you here and just keep going. Don't stop. Just keep going. At one point you will be on the other side of this. Even if you don't have all the answers today, your life is still worth living.
That's beautiful because usually when we are suffering, it's so dark, the path that we don't see, not just one light, nothing. But when we understand that we keep going, we can turn on our light and there is no more darkness out there. You're not alone. You're keep going. You'll get to the other side. It's like when you are in a tunnel and you don't see anything. No, you don't even see the light on the other side. But if you keep going, you're getting closer to the exit. Then you'll start seeing the light. So it's really, really a nice message. You just keep going. Don't give up. Just keep going. You're not by yourself. You're not alone. God is near. And one of the things that I used to tell me myself on those times is it's never darker than when it's coming, when dawn is coming. It's and in order to see the stars, it has to be dark.
That's
So
true. That's true.
so I kept telling me that helped me a lot to just keep going, that it will end in some way. Just keep going. You don't see it yet, but it's there. And that there is when the faith and the hope keeps popping. It's like believe there is a small light over there that will guide you. Just keep going. You don't see it now, but it's there, right?
Yeah, and I think we can be that light for people as well.
Oh yeah. Once we already suffer and pass that, we are a role model to the others that, yeah, I went through that. You can do it. I'm on the other side of the bridge. Come, you're in that side, but don't bring me back to the other side. I'll help you pass the bridge. So here
Yes.
I am on the other side. Yes, and tell me, Catherine, is there any permission, or is there something that you have to allow yourself now, or what do you have to allow yourself now for your next stage in life?
Can you ask that again?
To move to your next step in life, to your next stage in life, is there something that you want to allow yourself?
I think just allow myself, what we talked about at the beginning, the permission, just allow myself to be, just to exist. I don't have to be doing anything or proving anything or trying so hard, just to simply be and allow myself to be me and allow other people to experience me.
And what's the question you ask yourself for that? Is there any question that you ask yourself for just be, I don't need to please anyone, I don't need to do anything. It's just
I just think of the verse, be still and know that I am God. Like, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to be fixing things and trying to save people and just be yourself and naturally, you
and
know,
be still.
and
Very
yeah,
interesting because the be still, for me, what I hear when I hear the be still is be present.
yes,
Just be present. You don't need to go. You don't need to go through the future. Don't need to go through your past. You don't need to do anything. You are lovable just because you exist. That's it. Be
yes,
present when I used to call it to myself when presence is enough, right? Okay. That's beautiful, but it's not so easy to get there. To value yourself, to acknowledge yourself of the how much you're worth without performing, without your masks.
that's correct.
Yeah, it's very simple, but at the same time, it's so complicated, right? Because we are so indoctrinated that we need to earn money, we need to perform, we need to give, we need to be there, we need to be in action. And the more because today in the world today, the message is the more in action you are, the more worth you are, right? That at least that's the crazy world telling all the time action, 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 and then you'll be worth something. Do something to be somebody, right? That's something we heard. At least I heard that in my early ages. Just do something. Don't be lazy to be so. If you want to be somebody, you have to do something, right? And you're just somebody already. You don't have to do anything. It's the present. That's a beautiful, beautiful message. Is just be still that I'm God. It's yeah. So thank you very much, Catherine, for your time. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Because before we go to where people can find you and contact you.
Yes, you can. I'm a holistic bio coach. I'm on all the social medias, holisticbiocoach.com. You can find me on YouTube, all the social medias, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. And I just want to let people know that like the suffering it's not the final part of your story. Even if you don't have all the answers, you can still heal and God is with you in the middle of your pain. He's not disappointed in you. He is with you. And if you can learn skills, like the dialectical behavioral therapy, again, the pain is inevitable, right? We're all experiencing pain, but you don't have to suffer. And if you are suffering, you don't have to suffer alone. And I just want to give people hope that God isn't finished with you yet. As long as you wake up every day and you're breathing, there's still a reason why you're here. And sometimes you do have to be still so that you can listen and figure out what God is trying to tell you.
Beautiful. Thank you very much, Catherine. Catherine
Thank you so
Finn,
much for having me.
holistic bio coach. You can find them any social media. But really, really, thank you very much, Catherine, for sharing your heart, your wisdom, being so open, so vulnerable, and especially allowing yourself to be you and to share our your knowledge with all the audience and with me. So, for those listening, remember that you are allowed and have permission to rest, to be still, to heal, to do nothing, and especially to be you, what you are meant to be. So, thank you, and
Amen.
we see you next time.
Thank you so much.